You know, in Matthew 29, Matthew 12, verse 29, disciples look on, they say, wait a minute. So when the crowd scatter a little bit, they say, Master, why could we not do that? Why could we not do that? So it said to them, no man can enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods except he first do what? Bind the strong man. And then he will be able to spoil his goods. You know who that strong man is? Let me quote you something here. Satan claimed this world is not his, but he got it by playing a trick on who God handed it to. So he said, it's mine. And that's why in Job 1 verse 7, the Lord said unto Satan, whence you coming from? Where? And you know the answer. The answer is well there in the scriptures. From going where? To and fro the earth. From walking up and down in it. Now when you talk like that, you're talking about your property. Or your house. Another one in Zechariah 3 verse 21 said that then the angel showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand to what? Resist him. He claimed Joshua because he was clothed in rags. Not only that, but the master himself in Matthew 4 verse 9 said, and again the devil taking him up. This is the temptation. Again the devil taking him up into an exceedingly high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them, and said unto him, all these things I will give thee. One thing I want to do this. One thing I ask you do, and I will give all of this to you. That's his things. He claimed it. You can't give away that is not yours. But that's what he was doing. Just pay me homage, and you get it. This is a strong man. So, therefore, if he claimed Joshua, and you know the story well, how he was contending with the archangel when they came to take up Moses. So he claimed everybody. So what Jesus is saying is that if you're going to rescue the perishing, you got to bind the strong man. You have to arrest him. Because he's not going to stand there with his hands folded and allow you to take who he claims. He's not going to do that. So bind him first. So our challenge is to bind the strong man. That's our challenge. Now let me tell you something. You know, there's Brother Idris or Brother Deli was here this morning. I wouldn't challenge him. They are twice my size. I would not challenge them. Or if I'm going to challenge them, I can't just go like this. I got to do some preparation. If we're going to bind the strong man, the man who takes captive, if we're going to rescue the perishing, then we have to do something. Because he's not a weak man. He's a strong man. And that's why Christ said, you can't go in his house and take his good. And you don't bind him first. the greater task is to bind him. The easy one is to take the goods. Because when you bound him, he can't fight anymore. You take his goods. You rescue Persian from him. When he's bound, you arrest him. Can't do anything. The challenge is to bind him. To bind a strong man. How do you do that? The prince of this world is holding hostage. And that's why our work is important. That's why we have these cards going into plantation. Every address here. And that's why we called for this week of prayer for the week. And I'm glad nobody puts up their hand to say that they were strong. Because if you say you're strong, then you won't get strength. Because you're strong. Just like they who say they are seeing, they won't get any sight. Because they are seeing. I want us to start praying today for the rest of this week for strategy, how to bind this strong man. You got to spend quality time if you want to do that. I can give you a clue or two from the master. He was habitual in prayer. He was habitual in prayer, and he came to set the example for us. He was habitual in prayer. But guess what, my dear friends? He had a passion. His mission was to seek and to save that which was lost. That was his mission. And that's the commission he gave to us. That's why he said to them, tarry in Jerusalem until you receive power from on high. Because the only way they're going to bind the strong man to rescue the perishing, they must receive power from on high. Now, I must say to you that he's such a deceptive strong man. There are those who, instead of seeking power from an eye to bind him, they're watching him. They are watching him and reporting his every move. That doesn't give strength to anybody. It doesn't. We need to tarry, as the master said, with an intention to get strength to overcome him. You remember the story of Samson, right? Samson was Nazarite unto God. And because of that, they shouldn't put a razor on his head. The Philistine has a problem. They want to capture him. But they need to search to find out where his strength coming from. Because sometimes when they think they had him, he takes up the gate and everything and gone with it. They say, wait a minute. This is not ordinary. We need to find where this man's strength is. And you know the rest of the story. They worked through their own daughters. They worked through to find the secret of his strength. They were smart, you see? You know why? They didn't try to capture him anymore. They were trying to get the key why he's so strong. There's no point they tie him with new ropes and chains all the while. Find out why he's breaking them. And then you'll capture him. If there's a hungering and a thirsting for the perishing, we will spend time seeking strength to rescue the perishing. So, after the ascension, they went back to Jerusalem and they went in an upper room. That's where they went. And that gathering was a different one than any one previously. Why? Because they were up there and they strike one accord up there, which wasn't something of the past. There was rivalry and envy, all terrible devilish traits among them. But when they went up there, they realized what they need to do. And they strike one accord. That means the prejudice and everything that they have against one another, they put it away. If we're, that's a good example for us. If we're going to bind the strong man, the envy, the jealousy, the prejudice against one another, we got to put that away. But we can't put that away for ourselves, because naturally we cling to those things. We have to surrender to Him. We have to surrender to the Spirit to get the will to put away that which we naturally cling to. You know, it is true that naturally we incline to give greater attention to some negatives about somebody. Naturally we incline to do that, make comment on it, and to prolong the discussion on it. In fact, some thrive in the pulpit in just talking about other people. They gather together to hear that. No, that doesn't help us to bind the strong man. It doesn't help us. I think they got talking about Pilate and what he did, and Herod and Annas and the rest of them. No! They were talking about their own shortcomings. That's why they had that prayer meeting up there. By the way, it's a prayer meeting, you know. It's a prayer meeting. The master says, stay there. Stay until you get power. But power don't come to unconverted hearts. It doesn't come to hearts that are not submissive. Because you will use that power to do something you're not supposed to do with it. When the heart is submissive, when the power comes, you will use it, or we will use it to do what we're supposed to do with it. Well, you know, they're up there, and they waited, and they waited, and we know what happened. We know what happened. They received power. They were drunk and all that sort of thing there. You know what Peter said to them? Man, it is the third hour of the day. But listen, you don't know that this was what was spoken by Joel the prophet. This is the fulfillment of it. I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. There was John the Baptist, who was commissioned to prepare the way of the Lord for the first advent. And you know, the Spirit, Gabriel said to Elizabeth, his mother, listen, this child that you'll give birth to will be filled with the Spirit from the womb. And what a preacher he was. He did tear down the hosts of Satan. They came out there to him. They said, look, why you come out here to see a real shaking in the wind? Or something more tangible while you're out here looking in Jordan? My dear brethren, we are expecting, in fact, it's prophesied that the entire world will be lightened with his glory. That is the gospel. You and I can be a part of that. You and I can be a part of that if we want to be a part of it. And that's why I'd like for us to have a burden for the perishing. Sacrifice more time and means. Be prepared to do that, because it must go forth. And when you think of it, that God is not, He's depending on us, but He's not depending on us, if you understand my language. We're not indispensable to His mission. No. It's a privilege for us to be a part of it. And if we see it that way, then we'll be ready to sacrifice what needed to be sacrificed for the gospel to reach the ends of the world. I know you watch the news. These days it's all over. You get the news on your phones and all of that. Once you got to get near to a radio, it's not anymore. You all watch the news. You see what is happening across the world. And that should cause us to develop a sense of urgency as to the proclamation of the gospel. Why? Because it cannot continue much longer. An urgency. You know why the Jews didn't ready for the first advent? You know why they rejected him? They had the prophecies there. Everything was there. The master said to them, how come you read? You don't understand? They had it there. But their priority was misplaced. Misplaced priority. They had worldly ambition. They were thinking of the prestigious nation they was. And they want to prolong that here. So when the kingdom came, they wasn't ready to bend down and go through the gates into the kingdom. The kingdom of grace, that is. Because they were sitting on the pedestal of perfection. They're not going to come down. I'm afraid today we need to redirect our focus. And I'm not saying here there are not those among us who are focusing in the right direction. What I'm saying is that the majority are focusing in the wrong direction. Now, if we have misplaced our priorities, and if leaders does that, it's worse, because what they will do, they will lead the congregation in that misplaced priority direction. Jesus gave us strange advice here. I call it very strange. He sent out 70 of them. He sent out 70 of them in Luke 10, verse 20. He said that um, when they came back, I'm just summarizing it. Right? When they came back from the mission he sent them, and they were rejoicing. Lord, this was accomplished, that was accomplished, and it was accomplished. They feel good. They say, even the devils were subjected to us, Master. Then he said something. Thank you for putting up there. Notwithstanding, in this rejoice not. Don't rejoice that the devil was subjected. Don't rejoice over that. Gloating over that. Let's see Satan subject to them. Imagine, as a strong man, notwithstanding in this rejoice not, that the spirit are subjected unto you. And you want to reverse that which he said there now. Just reverse that, what he was saying. Listen. Let this be your cause for rejoicing. Let this be your cause for rejoicing. That your names are written in heaven. Implying something. There are those who Satan will subject it to, but their name's not written in heaven. There's someone will be casting out Satan, but their name's not written there. That's what he's saying there. So rejoice that your names are written in heaven. Talking about those who want to convince others that because they cast out Satan, they are true to God. No. But God can employ any means for the advancement of his work. In another scripture, he said it even more plain. He said, listen, not everyone that say, Lord, Lord, shall enter. And he went even further. He said, listen, many will say, have we not done many wonderful things in your name? They bind the strong man in their mind, but there is no deception. The strong man is so slick. He will have you believing that you bind him when he have you. He have you believing that you bind him, but he have you. And he's not going to put in the light, because once you put in the light, he may probably start to think differently. So he said, yeah, you stay there in false hope. Stay there until it's too late. And this is the thing, my dear friends. The Master leave nothing for us to assume. He said everything plain. We have enough light. We have enough light to guide us on the right path. If we would just follow humbly in the path he laid out. We're expecting. The former rain is gone. The later one will be soon. Prior to the ascension, to the launching of the gospel, they was empowered to preach. And they did preach. And the message did go forth that your sins have been paid for. Christ came, paid for your sin. The one you rejected, that's what Peter told them on the day of Pentecost. The one you rejected, he was the one who saved us. Today, we're talking about the second advent. So that's how the latter rain becomes very crucial to the finishing of this work. Who will be recipient of the outpouring? Some of those who should have been recipients in the outpouring of the former rain. What happened? They saw falling around them, and it was ridiculing the recipients of it, saying, "You look like you all just drink wine." They was having a show over what was happening. That was sealing their destiny. They was having a show over it. I believe that many today will be having a show, great time, during the outpouring of the latter rain. And they'll find themselves destitute of it. Because they're in deception and would not make an effort to get out of it. So how do we bind the strong man, my dear friends? How do we bind the strong man? Time in prayer. Time in prayer. Time in prayer. Spend quality time in prayer. Pray for the right things. How does I'm to figure out, and you're to figure out. Anything can be our priority, but as to whether it is right, we judge. How can my career I'm about to choose, this is mostly for the young people, how this going to help me? How this going to facilitate me telling others that Jesus is coming back? And if there's doubt about that, then it makes sense to choose another one. How can the house in the community that I want to be in, that I admire so much, how can getting a house in there help me to be effective in the proclamation of the gospel? How can that help me? And if there's some doubt as to how you're going to use that opportunity to proclaim the gospel, tell others of Jesus' love, then think again. Let's think again. Or make another choice. Another choice. Because our priority should be the proclamation of the gospel. That's where it should be. That's where it should be. Those mailers will be in the post box of folks around here this week. And I want us to pray for this, that when the homeowners go in the mailbox and take it out and look at it, and the Spirit says something to them, they will look again and say, you know what, let me pay them a visit. Let me go and see what this is all about. Just out of curiosity. We should be praying for that. Praying earnestly for that to happen. Only 2 of the 10 did like this. No, I don't want it. I don't want it. But when I leave that material, I say, thank God, that's a witness right there. There was a time, I'm old enough to know this, there was a time when in church, in Sabbath morning, you go there for a report, and you say, well, did you make any contact? Did you tell anybody about Jesus this week? And they write down a figure and so forth. And when we have members meeting, they would say, well, okay, the work is this. We did X thousand worth of missionary contact and such help, and this number in helping, and so on and so forth. You have a record, and we look at that at the business meeting and say, well, we have X members, so how is this looking? And the church will decide, yeah, we need to do more, or let's keep it up, the sort of thing there. But we no more do that, because there was some who started to talk. Well, listen, I don't want to say how much people I help and how much people I talk, because it don't appear as if I'm boasting. So they discontinue it. But that doesn't say we should not be doing it. We don't have to count. Heaven is counting. And God knows. So we have a solemn responsibility. The strong man must be bound. He has people in captivity. The day is coming when captivity will be held captive. That's soon. That's soon. Jesus himself said, if I stand upon high, I will lead captivity captive and draw all men to me. But we are his instrument. We are the medium he wants to use. And we must make ourselves willing medium. In fact, he's not going to force anybody. He's not going to force anybody. He's going to just extend the invitation. We accept or we don't accept. Let's get on with the work. Get on with the work. It's high time. The day that we have now will soon close. Master himself said that I will work the work of him while it is day. Because after dark, that's when mercy door finish. Done. No man can work. So I'm going to work the work of him that sent me while it is day. I want us to get to a point of experience that the reason why we're here at this address, why the church is still here, it's because the work's still not done. That's why it is here. So not just let this place be an address that we come to every week and sing and go home. Let it be a place where we come and talk about the burden of the work. To bind the strong man, to bind him. To bind him so we can rescue souls in captivity. Those who will be rescued will be rescued. And then, after that, it will be rest forever. Rest forever. Rest forever. You just try to imagine that. Imagine you somewhere. You don't have to think about the next thing that become due. You don't have to think about when they hear they're going to put X percentage and so and so and so. You got to think, where am I going to get the money from to do it? You don't have to think about a medical bill. I sometimes afraid to go to the doctor. Afraid. Because you know what's coming behind that. Think about that rest. This was all me with our story this morning, and the thorns in their garden. You know. See, you have to make an effort to pull out those weeds. You don't plant them, they just grow. You don't have to cultivate weeds. Weeds just grow. And if you don't watch it, just spend your time and effort pulling out weeds and you don't get anything. Because they grow. All that stress is in. You know, sometimes they grow and after they grow, the weather kill them. You got to be fighting everything here. You have to fight everything. Said, all you are weary, come. I will give you rest. Why would we not heed that invitation? Why? I pray by God's grace, you know. I've always said this in my prayer, that we get a glimpse of something. And that is the glories that await. You know, let me tell you something. I've noticed people in love, when a young man see a young lady he loves, he say, listen, I want to be with her. And from the day they met, he's working to be with her. One day they go get married. He's going to go in a church and sit down. If you ever wait a hour or two for her to come with him, walk up and go take her from the giveaway father, he's going to wait because he wants to be with her. Well, we're part of the groom. We're the bride, and the groom is waiting to meet his bride. And that's why we dress now. We dress now, and he will do the dressing. You know, because we can't dress for that occasion. He will dress in, and he dress starting from inside. He start from inside. He works on the heart. What a glory that will be. The work may be hard now and challenging, but he give us strength. You don't have to worry that, listen, I need strength. No. He will give you the strength. And if you have the will, he will strengthen the will as well. He will do all of that. All he asks for us is very easy. Be willing. Be willing. And everything's fall into place. Can we do that? It's a week of prayer beginning. And I want to close off this service in a different way. I want us to have prayer together. The community, the mailers are going out. You don't have to pray aloud, but we want to just go on our knees silently. And if there's a burden on the heart for it to go forward, thank God. And if there's not a burden on it, ask him to place one there. In other words, if you don't see the burden yet, as the Master saw it, or he wept over Jerusalem, if you don't see that yet, ask him, Lord, please place a burden on me. Let that be your prayer. And just be honest with yourself. Listen, if I don't have the burden that the speaker is speaking about, ask him to give you that burden. He will do it. Once you want it, he will do it. And ask him to make sure that the priorities you have, they are his priority. And let's just finish, on God's mission. If we're on his mission, everything's fine. I want us to pray for that. The result of this prayer week, this week of prayer for the week, the result of it, I'm very optimistic about it. I'm very optimistic about it because this is not my power, my will. This is his power and his will. And the assurance is, my word shall not return unto me void. He also said that he shall see the travail of his soul and be satisfied. God knows all of that. So all I want to do is to be a willing instrument in his hand. And it's said and done. And that's what I want us to pray. Those who have the will, ask him to strengthen the will and to show you method. Right? And if you find yourself a little bit not too bold to talk to people and so forth about what your faith is, then ask him for that boldness. And so you bind this strong man. We need to ask God for everything. Talk to him like you talk to anybody. Ask him for that boldness. And you find yourself tied up in activities and can't do it. Ask him to give an opportunity where you be able to use even a fraction of the time that you have to minister for him. And if the life is not too up to where you would want it to be, ask him to help you to get it up there. And if you think You have to endure it. Ask him to give you the endurance. Because some things start a certain way and it just can't change overnight. You're not going to change overnight. But don't let that get in the way of the proclamation. Don't let that get in the way of it. Let's take it serious in 2024. Let's take this serious in 2024. The work must be done. And we sit right inside here. It's an indication that we believe that he's coming back. If we do this, let's get busy. Let's get busy with our master in finishing this work.